I'm Elizabeth Henson. Welcome to the Messy Success Podcast, where I'm helping creative dreamers and overachievers tackle business and life. After 6 years of being my own boss, I finally unraveled a tiny bit of what it takes to survive in this amazing world of being an overly creative entrepreneur. I'm your business bestie, here to help you with all those big ideas and to normalize some of the day-to-day struggles that we all share. My mission is simple. I want more women to make a living doing what they love and to feel good about themselves in the process. The best way to start? We can't do it alone. So welcome. I hope you'll hang out with me here where it's totally okay to be messy. Hey, and welcome to episode 4. You guys, it is launch week, as I'm recording this at least. And I just wanted to say thank you to the listeners that we have here at the Messy Success Podcast. I can't believe it. I'm so excited. You know, I worked on this for the last 6 months and I was like, is anybody going to listen? You know, as creatives, those feelings of self-doubt creep in all the time, right? And I was just like, is anybody going to listen? I had to keep telling myself that I was creating this podcast for my already audience, the people who visit my blog, the people who are already kind of in my community. But I have been shocked and blown away and so incredibly grateful for the people that have tuned in and then followed up and let me know their thoughts and let me know that they enjoyed it or that they had a great takeaway. I'm just so grateful. So thank you for being here. Thank you for all the support throughout launch week. Thank you to all of my amazing community members that donated for the giveaway. It's just been awesome. And it fuels me to pour into this even more. So if you listen to episode 3, I introduced this topic of impact versus intention. I love this topic because I think that a lot of us walk through life with good intention. I always tell myself, nobody wakes up in the morning with the intention of hurting someone or leaving someone out or just walking through life in a way that affects others, right? I mean, for the most part, I think we all wake up and want to do good. But there's this disconnect sometimes with our intention and what the impact actually is. And this topic aligns so well with my beliefs on the difference between an influencer and a leader, right? An influencer just has the ability to influence a lot of people. It doesn't matter what they're doing or what they're saying or what they're influencing. It just means that they have a large reach. Whereas a leader may not have a large reach, but they might be making a large and positive impact to just a few people. So that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, you know, because on Instagram and social media, we compare ourselves a lot and we really measure success by our ability to be an influencer or the amount of followers that we have or how big our audience might be. And that's simply not important. Does it matter if you're trying to create a one-to-many offer? Of course, it's great. The more people that we talk to, the more people that can have interest in what we're doing. But at the end of the day, to be a leader, to be someone that creates good and creates change, it doesn't matter how big our audience is. Big, small, it doesn't matter. What matters is that our intention aligns with our impact. And I'm really, really excited to talk to Jen Baggett today. Jen is an actual leadership coach, and she introduced me to this concept, which is why I wanted to bring her on the show so that we can expand on episode 3. And it's not just something random that I'm throwing out there, that this intention versus impact is a real thing. So let me tell you a little bit about Jen. Jen is an experienced leadership coach and facilitator who works with emerging women leaders. She helps uncover their authentic leadership style and build their confidence and expand their leadership capacity so that they can make a bigger impact professionally and personally. She spent nearly a decade working in talent and leadership development. Jen knows what it takes to be a truly effective and influential leader. And she believes that leadership is not about a title or a position, but rather how we show up and how we show up as ourselves every day at work, home, and in the community. I met Jen in a program called Social Glue, run by Raina Pomeroy from Raina & Co. And we were actually in a mastermind together. And I was just so intrigued by this whole title of being a leadership coach. I think it's such a cool thing. I think it's really important work. And I somehow won a free coaching call with her. I forget how. I think it was also in Rena's group somehow. And we spent about 45 minutes on the phone. And I just was a little nervous before, like, what am I going to get out of this? What is this going to be like? But it was incredible. She asked me the right questions. And I talk about that a lot in my mastermind programs, that being a good business bestie, being a good mastermind partner, having good business conversations in general, it's about asking the right questions and being a good listener and being positive and encouraging. And instead of the you should, it's the how about try, higher thought-provoking questions. And that's exactly what Jen did. And we had some amazing discoveries just in our little 45 minutes that we spent together, that I actually suffer from something called the inner mean girl. I would have never looked at myself in the mirror and thought that I had an inner mean girl, but I totally do. And so many other crazy and fun and meaningful takeaways from that conversation with her. So I won't put it off any longer. I'm going to go ahead and bring her on the show, and we're going to dig into this topic. Hi, Jen. I am so excited to have you here today on the Messy Success Podcast. So I already did the official introduction, but can you tell us about what you do? Like, you're talking to really creative people. Tell us what you do.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I am a leadership and career coach. I work a lot with leaders to really help them expand their capacity as leaders and expand their skills so that they can go out into the world and really make an impact on their organizations and in the world.
So you work with a lot of bigger companies, right? Are you working with any solopreneurs or creatives?
I work with a creative right now. I'm working with someone. She's actually in museum design. So a little different, but yeah, I do work with some solopreneurs and do work with some big companies as well.
I'm just so fascinated by this topic of leadership. I'm so excited. And so I introduced this topic of intention versus impact, and I just can't wait today to really dig in. So can you start by telling us a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. So this is also one of my favorite things to talk about. And I love that you talked about kind of being a leader versus being an influencer. So the first thing I would love to bring up is a lot of times when I talk about leadership, people think, oh, well, I'm not a leader because I don't have a title, or I'm not in the corporate world, or, I don't have people that report to me, kind of thing. And I think that's one of the very first misconceptions about leadership, that leadership is not about a title. It's more about how you impact those around you, right? So if you are someone who's out in the world and you're putting stuff, content, art, anything out there in the world, then you are essentially a leader. So, if you are inspiring people to do something, or you're inspiring people to take action, you're a leader. So it doesn't matter whether you have a title. Everyone, I believe, is a leader. And that's why I think this concept of intention versus impact is so important. It's interesting. I really believe in my heart of hearts that 99% of people on this planet come to the office every day, or they come to work every day with the best of intentions. And in fact, I think everything that we do, we come with the best of intentions, right? Have you ever had that conversation where you're talking to someone and they're like, oh gosh, that just wasn't my intention. That wasn't my intention. Because we really do come to the table with the best of intentions. But unfortunately, our intentions don't always have the intended impact that we want. And in the world, We want to be judged by our intentions, but we are in fact judged by the impact that we have on others. So you can come to the table with the best of intentions, and that's fine and good, but all that really matters is the impact that you have on somebody else.
Yes, and that's so powerful. And I'm a little bit on the empathetic side anyway, so I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I live my life almost overly concerned about how I'm affecting other people. But we've all been in that moment where somebody misunderstands something that we do, and we're like, that, like you said, that was not our intention. And I feel like I'm constantly telling people, nobody wakes up in the morning saying, man, I really want to have a negative impact today. I really want to hurt some people's feelings today. So most of the time, if our feelings are hurt about something, it's a misunderstanding, or their intention is not really matching their impact. So what are some ways that we can, walk through life or carry ourselves on social media and be a little bit more intentional about the impact that we're making? Like, what are some tips that you would give people to make sure that they're leaving a positive impact?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the first thing that I tell people, both leaders that I work with and even friends and family, is be really mindful of the impact that you want to have. So that's the first thing, right? When we can get really clear on, okay, I'm putting this out there, what is the impact that I am trying to have? Just in that moment of kind of mindfulness, we can really make a difference in the impact that we're having. Because a lot of times I think what happens is people just put stuff out there without kind of thinking it all the way through. And when we do that, we forget, like, oh, there's a lot of different types of people out there, and people communicate differently and they receive things differently. And that's not to say that you have to censor yourself, but I think it's just being really mindful of, okay, what is it that I want to put out there, and does this really align with the intention that I have? So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is to just pay attention to the feedback that you're getting, right? So in the corporate world, people get feedback from their employees and their bosses. When you're on social media, you generally get feedback from your followers, hopefully, if you are someone who's kind of interacting with your audience. And so listen to that feedback. A lot of times when I talk to people about this, they'll say, well, I got this feedback, but I don't really agree with it. And that's, I think, where the biggest issue happens, is that we get feedback and we're like, that doesn't match what my intention was. So I don't think that that's right. But someone is reacting to it. That means that you had that impact on that person. And so pay attention to that feedback and really kind of take your emotions out of it and say, okay, obviously I've impacted this person in this way. Where's the nugget of truth there? Where did maybe I take my misstep? And I think those are two big things, is being really intentional with your messaging and what you're putting out there, and then listen to the feedback that you're getting.
Yes, I love that. Our audience can tell us so much. And, a lot of times people are struggling with getting engagement in general on their social media. So I always say, well, what's your call to action? Because I love going to my friends' social media accounts and visiting people that I've interacted with, and I go to their profile or their social media, and I genuinely want to engage. But sometimes if they're not really asking us anything, or they're not really providing content that gives me the opportunity to share my opinion or to share something, then it gets really hard. It becomes more of a chore. So I love that you said listen to your audience, because if you guys are out there and you're hearing crickets, then your intention is not really matching the impact that you're wanting. And I think that's such a valuable tool to kind of step back and listen. Is your audience telling you anything? And then if they are telling you stuff, what is it that they like? What is it that they're reacting to? What is it that's filling your inbox or your DMs full of information? I love that.
Yeah, I think it becomes important to think about, and hopefully this doesn't sound too like hopefully this comes across the right way. Hopefully my intention matches my impact here. Um, but it's not about the I, right? When you're interacting on social media or when you're a leader, it's not about the me or the I. It's about the we, right? And so if you are putting stuff out there on social media and you want to have a certain impact, you can't think about it from, well, what do I want to see? What do I want, me. It's got to be more about the we, like what this is a group, and it's an audience, and it's a way to sort of interact, like you said. And if I'm thinking about it from my point of view, my lens, and what I think is important, that's when your impact is not going to match your intention. You've got to think about it from the we. Like what do my followers want to see? What do they need? Not what do I want to provide? Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm doing so many fist pumps over here.
Yes.
That's what I really truly believe, is that everybody out there wants to be seen and they want to be heard. I mean, that's why we're all, an entrepreneur. That's why we're all on social media, because we want our voice to get heard. So if we can learn to talk to our audience in a way that actually does the reverse and makes them feel heard, they're going to fall in love with us so much faster, because that's all they want. They want to be able to spread their wings and spread their platform, and everybody's out there for the me. But if we can create a platform that allows them to share in a genuine way, then they're going to want to keep coming back to us. That's why I'm constantly doing these, shout out somebody else. I really try to shine the light on other people on social media, because I'm like, anything to kind of take the eyes off of what I want and to spread the light on other people, that's going to make them feel heard, which is going to make them want to come back. And plus, it's fun.
Yeah, and that's what this is all about, right? I mean, this when you're an entrepreneur and you are on social media, it is about engaging with your audience. And if you want to be a leader in your field, it's about giving the people what they need, giving your audience what they need, and making them feel heard, just like you said. And then when we come across in that way, and that goes back to that being really intentional about what you put out, really thinking through, what do I hope that the audience gains from this? It's just like you said, they feel heard, they feel involved, they feel like they're a part of your world a little bit. And just listening to them and interacting with them, again, it's going to make sure that you're having the impact that you really want to have.
Yes, absolutely. And putting ourselves in their shoes. So the last episode, we got really, really juicy into this social media talk. And I'm glad that we're talking about all of this intention versus impact, because I was actually asked, and if you guys didn't listen to the last episode, you'll have to go back and listen. And this was all stirred up because I got an email from a dear friend that was, she was literally like, how do you walk through life so securely? How are you so self-confident? How are you so comfortable sharing about other photographers constantly online? And having to answer that question, I really had to dig deep. And it all, it brought me back to, this one post by an influencer that was basically like, so many people are doing this, but if you're struggling with self-comparison, unfollow everybody that makes you feel sad or makes you feel not worthy. Just unfollow them. So this is what I talked about in the last episode. And a huge part of this is, how do we want to raise our children? And I can't look at my girls in the face and say, oh, Susie in your class makes you feel sad. Don't worry, we can just take her off social media, because that's not actually solving the problem. The problem is, that people out there are suffering from comparison. That's like become this whole thing that's become acceptable to just remove people from your social media if you're suffering from that. And I don't really agree with that, because the intention is good. The intention is so good. The intention's like, if you don't like this, let's make it better. But the impact that it has is not good, and it can potentially hurt people's feelings. So the whole episode was about, let's not make a movement out of something that could potentially hurt people's feelings. What if you're that person on the other side? So Jen, just to dig a little bit deeper, since you're a leadership coach, I would love to hear if you've worked with anybody that struggles with self comparison, or what your tips would be for the creatives out there who really struggle, but from looking at what other people are doing and feeling like they're not worthy or they're not enough. Aside from just removing those triggers, what can we do to actually cure that problem?
Yeah, so that's a big one. So, as as a leadership coach, I love working with women leaders. I have two girls myself, and so it's something I'm really passionate about. And I feel like we need more confident female leadership in the world in every arena. And this idea of comparison and looking at others and saying, "Well, I'm not good enough," or "I'm not this," or "I'm not that," it's something that we all suffer from, right? So this is a lot of people deal with this. And to say, well, if someone is making you feel bad, just unfollow them. I think that does a huge disservice to yourself, right? If you're that person who's saying, I'm looking at all these things and I'm feeling like, oh, I'm not as good as that person, or I'm not as, skinny as that person, or my work isn't as, technically sound as that person, or they've been doing this longer than I have, all of those things I feel like that's doing you a disservice by saying, well, I'm going to unfollow them. And I think what you said about how we raise our children, like, right, if they're in the classroom, we can't just say, okay, well, don't be friends with Susie because she's prettier than you are. I think rather than saying, okay, I'm going to unfollow, or I'm not going to interact with those people, I say surround yourself with the best of the best. When you surround yourself with the best of the best, what it serves to do is allows you to learn from those people and raise your game, right? So if you're only surrounding yourself with people who make you feel better about yourself because you're quote unquote better than them, then how are you going to get better? How are you going to grow? How are you going to really kind of step your game up? And so that's the first thing, is follow people who are better than you so that you can learn from them. And rather than looking at them like, wow, I'm not like that person, or I'm not as good as that person, turn it into, wow, look at what they're doing. If they can do it, so can I. Right? Use it as a proof point rather than a comparison point.
Yes,
I think that,
absolutely.
yeah, right?
Like, I'm definitely not one to say that I've never compared myself or I've never felt sad like I wanted to be something else or be more. That is such a human emotion to have. But I think the key is, do we have the tools, like you said, to use that as positive momentum? And I saw such a change in myself when I said, you know what, I want to be around these successful women. And just like you said about our kids, like, I want Gracie, no matter how jealous she is, I want her to be able to stand next to that person and shake their hand and genuinely be able to share that moment, because that's how we get better. I love being the dumbest person in the room.
I
That's
do too. I think it's awesome when I'm the dumbest person in the room. It makes me happy because it means
yeah.
I'm learning.
Yeah, and sometimes I get intimidated and I get shy if I'm in a room full of like crazy, amazing, successful women, and I just kind of sit back and I soak it all in. But I would so much rather be in that room than constantly, just be around people that, um, don't have that same mindset. They say surround yourself with the people that are where you want to go, right? So
Exactly.
I love that topic, and I'm so glad that you were able to dig into that with me a little bit. I think people are afraid to talk about it, not the comparison part, but people are afraid to talk about what it feels like to be on the other side. Like when people are unfollowing you because they can't handle your success, or whatever that may look like, or just because you're a photographer, then they don't want to follow other photographers. I've had numerous people say that they simply unfollowed me because I was in the wedding industry and they were tired of seeing so much wedding stuff. And I personally just don't understand why Instagram has become so different than Facebook. Facebook, you're
Mhm.
friends, and that's it. If you're friends in real life, you're friends on Facebook and you move on. Whereas I feel like Instagram has become this platform where people are so consumed with this idea of being Insta famous and that it's their platform to kind of have some type of celebrity status, and everybody wants this huge following and they don't want to follow a lot of people. I feel like that's kind of trending right now. And I've been trying to tell my people and my followers that you still want to cultivate community. And if I go to somebody's Instagram account and they're not really following anybody, that tells me that it's their space is not necessarily a community, that it's a platform. And there's a difference.
There's
So
a
I
total
feel like,
difference.
yeah. And if we have 1,000 friends on Facebook, to me, 1,000 is a great social media community size. We all kind of know 1,000 people. I know that sounds like a lot, but on Facebook, it's really not.
Right.
So why do we turn around on Instagram and feel like it's only appropriate to follow 200? Because I think you're really sending a message to your audience, which goes back to that intention versus impact. Your
Mhm.
intention is good. Oh, I just want to have this clean, curated feed and only follow my 200 most amazing people. But it's kind of sending a message and making an impact to those new people that are coming to your profile for the first time. And it's telling them, hey, she's not going to follow me back. She's not really going to interact with me back unless I'm interacting on her stuff. Whereas
That's the thing. It's about me, right? When I go to a page like that and I see that you've got a gajillion followers and you're only following like 20 people, I'm like, oh, this is about you. This is the, whatever. If it was me, it's the Jen show. And it's all going to be stuff that's important to you, not necessarily important to me.
Right. And that's okay. There's definitely people that I follow that have that type of platform, but typically those are people that already had these really large audiences and they've converted that to Instagram. And I get that. I understand boundaries, but I'm talking about the everyday creative entrepreneur that is trying to make it. Those of us that are really just still trying to make it, we're still trying to grow our audience. Our DM boxes are not so full that we just can't possibly engage. We've got to be really mindful about what message we're sending with our social media presence and our platform. And are we inviting people to interact with us? Do we have those open arms and those open doors? And, I want people to come to my Instagram and say, hey, she seems like she really has a community and she really conversates back with people, for lack of a better way to put it. And I know you are brand new to Instagram and you've been totally rocking it. What are you thinking so far?
It is so it's totally new for me. Social media was always sort of a fun thing that I did just to kind of share photos of my kids and to interact with friends and family. And I didn't spend a ton of time on it. So yes, I'm new to Instagram. I love it. It's a weird thing when you get straight. So I look at everybody that follows me and I like go look at their page. And then I get these weird ones that are like hair extensions. I'm like, nope. But in general, like I love it because I'm getting to meet other coaches from around the world, and I love seeing the content that they share and commenting on their stuff because for me, I think it's important that we have other people that are like-minded in the world because I'm only one person, right? Like my message is only going to spread so far. And I'm so passionate about it and I'm so like fired up about it. And I see that the world needs to change and leadership needs to change, that if I'm the only person that's doing this, it's insurmountable. But to know that there's so many other people that are doing this work makes me hopeful. And it makes me excited. And I'm like, gosh, what can I learn from these folks? And how can I learn from them to make a bigger impact? And just support them so that the message grows. And again, I think it goes back to, it's not about me. It's about the work and it's about what we're doing. And even if you're a photographer, that work is important. You are capturing the most important moments in people's lives, right? And you are going out there and you're capturing these beautiful images, and that's amazing. And if it was just you, if you were the only photographer out there, that'd be really sad because that means a lot of people are going to miss out on a lot of beautifully captured moments. So I think it's really cool. It's a cool platform, but I like that. I like it when you can engage, because it just shows me, one, that I'm not alone, and two, that the work I'm doing matters, and that there's other great people in the world that are doing this work too, which is great because that means more people get to experience it.
Yes, absolutely. And like you said earlier about, being really clear about what you want your message to be. Like I have seen, a positive momentum in my confidence level, the more clear that I get about who I want to serve. And that's why it's okay that there's so many coaches and there's so many photographers, because the ones that have a really clear message on who they want to serve, they're going to reach those people so much faster. Like you're
Right.
talking to a different audience that I'm talking to, and Raina talks to a different audience. And that's so important.
Yeah, exactly. Because you know what they say: when you're ready to learn, the teacher will appear. And so I think the reason that it's important for us all to be sort of out here and sending our message is because we want to make sure the right people hear our message. Because there's a million other leadership coaches out there, and I'm not for everybody, right? But I want to make sure that someone else gets this help and support that they need to be better. And it's the same thing with photographers. Like, right? I may not be, you may not be everybody's cup of tea, or everybody's style. Some people might like really dark, moody style. And that's okay. But at least maybe you can introduce them to that photographer, and then they can have the images that they always dreamed of. I think that's really cool.
I love when I can make those connections. If somebody, I can't serve someone, I love being able to send them to somebody that I already know, like, and trust, which, just another thing about if you're not being intentional with your social media and you're just unfollowing all willy nilly, you're kind of causing a disconnect in those relationships. And those are people that might be wanting to send you business later. And this
Yes.
is not a mission for me to be like, follow everyone. I just really believe wholeheartedly in my social community being 50-50. And I'm really interested in engaging with those people who want that 50-50 relationship and who kind of need me. I mean, I love some of these big celebrity, big name Instagrammers out there, but if I'm spending my time, in their comment section, I'm losing time that I could be engaging with people who really need to hear from me. I might
Mm-hmm.
change somebody's day by saying, hey, that image is really beautiful. Someone who doesn't get that typical engagement. So my overarching, mission these past, couple weeks or couple months has just been to spread more awareness about positivity and having that positive impact and having the tools to kind of overcome our intention if it may not be what we want it to be. You say that so much more eloquently.
I've had a lot of practice. That's the only reason why. I think what you're saying though is really important, and I think like one of the things that you talked about is kind of knowing who your audience is, and I think that goes to really understanding. I call it branding, and sometimes branding sounds a little too corporate, or it sounds a little too, just formal. But you have to think about, what is your brand, right? So something I talk about with my leadership clients is, what do you want to be known for? Like, what is your legacy? Here's the beautiful thing about, you know, this wonderful life of ours, is that we have the ability to leave a legacy. It doesn't mean that it's going to be huge and we're going to be some like, we're not going to be like Gandhi or something, but you have the ability to touch lives. And so if you spend some time in the beginning thinking through, what do I want to be known for? How do I want to impact people's lives, and get really intentional with that? Who do I serve? What do I offer? How do I help? And you make that really clear, then it becomes much easier to make sure that your intention matches your impact. So if you go out there willy nilly and you don't know who you are, what your message is, it gets really hard to determine, hey, am I really sending the message I want to send? Because you don't know. So I think that's something that's really important to start out with as you're going out into social media, is like, hey, who am I? What do I have to offer the world? Because you do have something to offer. And even if you are a photographer amongst millions of photographers, you have a voice that's different than everybody else. So what is that voice? What do you want to be known for? What do you want people to walk away from the interactions with you feeling like? And if you can get really clear on that, you can really judge whether or not you are having that intended impact.
Yes, I love that. You say that so well. And a lot of times I ask myself when I walk away from a conversation with somebody that either went really well or really not well, okay, why am I feeling this way? And how can I be different? If I walk away from, have you ever like gone to have coffee with another business person and you walk away and you're like, wow, what did I learn about them? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, learned that they shoot 40 weddings a year, that they're booking so much that they're resentful to their job, and that they're going to be on, a 4-page spread of a magazine. That's what I walked away from that conversation from. Not, man, I really got to share, or I really got to open up, or I really learned what they're struggling with. It's not that exciting to just show up and be really great. Sometimes being vulnerable and like we talked about in the beginning, letting people be heard is one of the most valuable things that you can do in a conversation.
Like, because I think this world, we for some reason, and I think it's really prevalent on social media. You hear it all the time, like, oh, this is Insta life and this is real life, right? Like, we all want to put like this best foot forward, and we all want to be perceived as having all the answers and being really successful. And the truth is, we all are struggling with something. Even the most successful people out there, the most brilliant photographers, the most wonderful leaders, they're all struggling with something. And we don't learn from perfection. We learn from the mistakes and the vulnerability. And so when we can be open and share what we're struggling with, or share, something maybe that isn't so insta perfect, I think that's where people really learn, and where that's where people really connect, right? And I find that when I work with leaders, I tell them all the time, look, you don't have to have all the answers. And when you do have all the answers, it makes you actually almost untouchable, and people can't connect with you. So you have to be willing to share the real stuff. And that's where the connection and the learning begins. That's where we connect on a human level.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I agree. More fist pumps over here.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so this was such a good conversation. Tell us a little bit about where my people can find you. I know you're newly on Instagram. I love having you on there. And is there anything else that you want to add? Any fun promotional things you have going on? Tell us the things.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. I'm Catchlight Coach, and I share all sorts of fun leadership topics. This month we were talking all about communication and how miscommunication happens and the different styles of communication. And next month we're heading into emotional intelligence. So check me out over there. I'd love to have you there and join the conversation. I'm on Facebook, Catchlight Consulting, and my website is wecatchlight.com. So would love for you to check out blogs, and again, join the conversation. I love it when people talk with me. So I love conversation, and so I try to be really intentional about asking those questions. And I think what I would love to just add is again reminding everyone that it doesn't matter how small your business or how new you are, you have something to say. You have something to say, and there's someone out there that needs to hear what you're saying. So be open, be vulnerable, be willing to share and connect with people on a deeper level. And don't be so concerned with things looking perfect and being, just the right picture or just the right content. Just put yourself out there. I think that people connect with that more than anything else. And again, just really determine what you want to be known for, and put that out there with your whole heart, and then listen to that feedback that you get back.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So much yes. And just showing up, just showing up day in and day out and getting better. That's what we all want.
Yeah, and that's what we're all doing. We're all just trying to get better and grow.
Yes. And hopefully make this world a little bit better for our small people.
Yes, hopefully.
Well, Jen, thank you so much for being here. I hope that we can continue this conversation online, and I appreciate you.
Thanks so much for having me. This was so fun.
I loved this time that I had with Jen. I hope that you guys will head over to the show notes and check out all of her links. Go find her on social media. You can go to elizabethhensonphotos.com/04, or you can always go to our podcast page at elizabethhensonphotos.com/podcast. So I wanted to take a minute today to recognize a special person. I haven't accepted any sponsorships just yet because I wanted to take my first couple of podcast episodes and really, really give back and love on my community members who deserve this and more. So today I wanted to shout out Amanda Peterson. This boss babe owns an Etsy shop called 5 Little Elephants because she has 5 children. You guys, 5 children. She's incredible. She creates amazing products with her vinyl decals. I have a cup that I use all the time. Every time I share it on Instagram, I get DMs wanting to know where I got it. It's got my logo and a cute little camera on it. Everyone loves it. Her work is so great and creative, and this girl just has a heart of gold. And I can't say thank you enough. Amanda, I know you're listening. So thank you for being so loyal, for always loving up on me, and for always understanding that your words have the ability to change somebody's day. And Amanda has changed my day so many times just by taking those few minutes to tell me that she appreciates what I'm doing, or that she read my blog, or that she listened to the podcast, and interacting in my Facebook communities. So go check her out on Etsy at 5 Little Elephants. I'm going to put all her links in the show notes. So I hope you'll go check her out there at elizabethhensonphotos.com/04. Thank you again for being here. I can't wait to chat next week. Don't forget that your words can change somebody else's day. So I want to challenge you to go out, tell someone that they're doing a good job. Tell someone that you appreciate what they're doing. Leave them a review, whatever it might be. Have a great week, you guys.